Street gospel, light of the temple. Sword swing, killer live from the ghetto. The hood messenger, let them know hell's close. Blackberry on the devil in a black cloak.
Yo, what is up? Welcome to the Street Gospel Podcast. I'm your host, Dave One, and this is episode number 20. So we made it. Episode number 20. So we're going to do a little something different today. So I thought we'd do a little celebration, a little bit of something where we tell the audience how this podcast got started, the motivation behind it, introduce you to some of the players, because I'm not the only one. Obviously, you guys heard Camo in the background. You know that he's always part of the show. But there's some other players that are part of the show, too, that are very important that kind of got everything going and help out and keep this thing running smoothly. So for episode number 20, we're going to talk about some good stuff. We got a lot of good episodes coming up, though. I mean, I don't want to jinx them, but there's a lot of good episodes. If you listen to the last episode, excellent episode. Episode 19 with Sylvia Avila definitely was dope. I asked everybody out there to send it to a friend, send it to somebody that needs to hear it, send it to somebody that doesn't need to hear it but just likes to hear a good story. That's the one that they want to hear. So I would appreciate if you sent that. But I thought I would talk a little bit about the cast, let you know what's going on a little bit, how we kind of run things around here. So the podcast got started because I always felt like I wanted to do one. You know, a lot of people were doing them. I felt that I can do one. So I said, okay, let me try to figure this out. I started looking into different equipment, and I'm not the most technical guy, right? And so I was trying to do something really simple and really easy, and it never worked out. You know, I heard people doing it with the phone. I heard people doing it with just one mic, and then uploading it, and props to all those people. No diss, but I just didn't want to do it that way. My way was kind of just, I wanted to make sure that everything sounded good, quality was good. We had a good place to do the show, and everything like that. So I think my thing is I want top notch. So I put it on the back burner for a little while. And then what happened was last year, I called my friend Ill Will, and I was talking to him. And Will's a friend of mine that we used to hoop with back in the day. And we were just talking about what's going on in the world, race relations and how we manage those things. And I was just getting some advice from him, and he's talking to me, and we're going back and forth, talking to each other. And he goes, "Hey, Dave, why don't you come on my podcast? You know, we're gonna do it, man. Let's come on the podcast. We'll talk, and everything will be good." So I'm thinking, okay, like that sounds dope, you know. So the No Rules podcast. So the thing is I go and we hook up. Like I think it was like the next day, right? So I'd never been on a podcast. I think I'm a fairly good speaker, so I didn't think anything of it. I go down to Will's pad, and it's in Bellflower, right? So I'm thinking it's at his house. And Will says, all right, Dave, you want to follow me to the spot? And I was like, okay, like, let's go. So he takes me. We take the 105. We get off on Central. So we in the heart of the neighborhood, right? And we go to his friend Ben Reddy's house. And Ben Reddy is like, I mean, I couldn't have been put with somebody better than Ben Reddy. Ben Reddy was, like his name says, he's been ready. The dude's ready. He had everything set up. So I was like, cool. I'm looking at the equipment. I'm looking at the mics. And Ben is pretty much a master. He's going live on Facebook. He's taking phone calls. You know, and I'm like, yo, he's running the board. And we got 3 mics rolling. He's taking calls. And I'm like, this dude is sharp, man. So I get a little inspired from the No Rules podcast. Ill Will, Ben Reddy, props to them for getting me inspired. And after the show was over, I started asking Ben some questions. And he had this board right here, which is the Rode Podcaster. So I'm like, yeah, man. And he's like, yeah, man, it's really simple. You'll get it. And I'm thinking in my head, man, I don't know, man. Maybe I can get somebody that could run this board for me or something. And it was really, really encouraging, man. And so he goes, man, if you start one, I'll help you. You know, whatever you need, let me know. So I was just kind of like, okay, yeah, I was getting inspired. Now, this was the early days of the virus, right? I think this was like the first, I don't know, it's got to be the first few weeks, maybe a month into it. And I had decided to make some custom masks, okay? So I had called up a friend of mine, Fredster, P-Town, Pomona legend, does it all. Graffiti, manufacturing, the drawing, everything you need, graphics, he does it all. So I call Fred. Hey, Fred, I want to make some masks. Can you do it? Yeah, no problem. So I'm small timing it. I tell Fred to make 50 masks. Fred says, that's it? I said, yeah. So I go to his spot. It's in South Central, and I pick up the mask. I put them up on the website. Now, everybody might not know, but I have a small brand called Savior Brand. And I put them up on the website, and they all sold quick, like within a couple weeks, gone, right? So I made a decent profit. Now you can buy a mask anywhere, $3, $4. I made these custom masks like right in the beginning of stuff, so people were looking for custom masks. It was a bandana print. Everybody loved it. Sold them for $15, right? $15 a mask. Don't act like you're out there like, oh, I would never pay that. You wouldn't pay that now. But early on in the virus, you would pay it, right? So I sold them. Got that money, right? Made a profit. Okay, cool. And then I go, man, I should run some more. So I text Fred. Hey, Fred, I need some more masks. He goes, I told you. And he said, how many more? I said, 50. And he's doing thousands. He's literally doing thousands of masks. And I said, Fred, how many can you do? He says, do 100. I said, 100? He's like, yeah, just do 100. Do 100, you'll be good. So I'm thinking, man, that's a lot of money. I do 100, I sell 100. Gone. So I get the profit, and I'm thinking, what can I do with this profit? We got to make something happen. And right then and there, I'm like, the podcast equipment. The podcast equipment is where it's at. So I'm thinking, Ben kind of gave me the rundown. He's like, how much it is. Thinking like, I'm right there, but I'm still kind of short on ends to get this done. It's not there yet. So miraculously, I got a friend that has a friend that basically hooked me up. So shout out to my boy Elsky Beto, as we all know him. He got me in contact with a guy that had a connection at Rode. Got me a good deal on this system and the mic. So I was like, cool. Great deal. Got it done. Now I have the equipment. Now, you can't just podcast with just this board and just this mic. You got to kind of buy cords. You got to buy headphones, mic stands, all this stuff. So I'm thinking in my head, okay, I got to start getting this stuff. So I start purchasing this stuff, and I'm going into a little bit of like, man, it's a little panic mode. There's a lot of money out there, and in the meantime, my wife is telling me that I should do video. So nobody's really doing video and doing the audio. If you do the audio, you'll upload it. It's pretty easy to upload it to a site and let them distribute it. But the thing is she goes, you'll be different if you do the video. So she put that little seed in my head, and I'm thinking like, okay, video. Now my son, Camo, my producer, is great at video. I'm not gonna worry about video. So I get Cam and I say, hey Cam, you think you can do this? He's like, yeah, no problem. I got it. So I'm thinking, okay, I got the equipment, but we need cameras. So Cam has one camera, and I go ahead and buy another camera. I had a GoPro already, so I'm thinking we got 3 cameras. They're not the best cameras, but they're serviceable cameras. They're still not the best cameras, but they're decent, right? Not super sharp. I think in the early days, everybody thought I was shooting on some HD cameras or something like that, and we're like, hey, how come it's like this? And I'm like, bro, I'm shooting on basically camcorders. That's what I'm shooting on. So we have those. I have that in my mind of video, audio. Cam's like, I can do it. And I'm thinking, great, let's do it. So it was a big learning curve. So many of you know this guy right here. You hear him in the podcast. So I just want to say to this guy, he's my producer. He's my camera guy. He's my editing guy. Without him, I wouldn't be able to get it done. I mean, the dude really brings the heat when we need him to bring the heat. And, I mean, I want you all out there to give it up for my man, my producer, my son. I don't know what I'll do if he leaves. OG Camo.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What up?
Finally here.
So-
After 20 episodes, I am finally here.
Are you showing your face?
Showing it now.
Showing it now. There we go. So,
There we go.
all right. So I'm breaking it down right now, man, of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of told the quick story. I told him about Ben Reddy. I told him about Ill Will that helped me out. Elski that helped me with the equipment. My boy Fred kind of just helped me with making the mask early on. We flipped
Yeah.
that money,
Yeah.
got the equipment. In the early days, though, man, it was a little rough.
It was bad. It was so bad. Because I'm so used to, like, editing and, like, doing all this stuff. And it's easy. It comes easy to me. Like, I'm not the best, but, like, I can do it. But I don't know. My computer, I have an old computer. And I was trying to import the footage. And it was just going slow. And I'm just like, what the heck? And I'm trying to edit. And, like, everything just so, like, distorted. And just, like, it was just bad. And then when I try to export the video, trying to, like, I finally finished it. It won't export. And I was just mad. I was pissed. Be honest.
The funny thing about it is we have a lot of friends that do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have our cousin Paul, which helped us tremendously too in getting this podcast going and editing some of the shorter videos for the gram and stuff, and kind of giving Cam advice. I have my friend Vince giving him a little advice. Eddie giving him some advice on how to do this. Cam is a self learner. He wants to do it himself, and sometimes that's
it's a bad thing. Not gonna lie. It's really it gets to the point where I'm like, I just start stressing,
and he gets stubborn about it. So if you look at some of the early videos, they're a little rough. I mean, the shots back and forth to the GoPro to the guest, to me,
it was cool.
it's fine. The transitions are fine. It's great. But the audio, why is the audio a little bit off in those early videos?
To be honest, I have no clue. Like, I thought it was just gonna be cool, sync, but no, it was just the audio was split into like different different files, and then the audio was just super long, and it would get out of sync, and I was like, why is it getting out of sync? And then my homeboy Jed, shout out Jed Ginger, he was all like, oh, well, you gotta do this. So I'm just like, and obviously me stubborn, I just did that. Like, nah, you ain't doing it right. You ain't doing it right. And he's little, but he's honest. He's always honest. So I can always rely on him to.
So it's definitely an early learning curve.
Yeah, for sure. Because I wasn't used to syncing audio to video.
Right.
I was just used to, just, use the audio from the camera because I had a good microphone. We had these. These are great microphones, but they're not synced to the cameras.
Right.
So I had never dealt with that before.
So we would get a lot of people that would try to give us advice, and they meant well.
Mm-hmm.
But when we told them what we were working with, obviously we're not going to use a camera audio because it's not as good as this audio.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody out there, he's got to take every shot and sync the audio that comes from this board and this recording up to the videos that he's editing, and each one. So it's got to match. So you got to imagine that took a minute for him to get that locked down.
It took me maybe 3 or 4 episodes in. The first episode was rough, super rough.
I remember he probably worked on that video 8 or 10 hours trying to get it synced and he would swear that it was synced, and I would watch it and I was like, it's not synced, and he's like, yes it is. So I was kind of, I'll be honest, I was a little
worried, yeah.
I was a little worried because I was thinking in my head
this guy's a pro.
No, if it keeps going like this, I can't really ask you to spend that much time editing one video.
Yeah.
You know, it just didn't make sense. So he started getting it down, and we were like, okay, it's better. You know what I mean? We still had like 3 different cameras. I mean, there were three different brands.
We had the Canon, we had that weird Panasonic, and then we had the GoPro.
And we had the GoPro. So we would put the good camera on the guest, of course. Bad camera on me. Doesn't matter. And then the GoPro, which always looked pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, on that. So he starts getting it down, and then all of a sudden, his computer goes out. I mean, literally goes out. I mean, and he's upset because that's what he does. He does a lot of other videos and stuff for fun. And shout out Camnesia.
Yes, sir.
And then he does the other videos. So it was kind of rough, you know. So he borrowed his friend's laptop to do like maybe 1 or 2, right? 1 or 2 episodes, maybe, or 1.
I used it for 2 because I remember like him texting me like, "Hey, yo, I need my laptop."
I know. And I was like, "Hurry up and finish."
And I was like, "Hold up, you said I can use it for as long as I want." He's like, "Well, I need it for school," and I was just like, "Bro, like, come on." But
that was rough.
That part was rough because not only we're on my dad's timestamp, but we're on his time. Yeah, it was just like, bro, and just out of rush.
And then so we had to bite the bullet, and we had to buy a laptop.
Yeah.
So even that was a little tricky because, you know, I wasn't going to buy a brand new laptop because it's a couple grand. So I go on eBay, I find one, and it has everything hooked up. I'm a little worried, and we get it, and the thing works excellent. So now we got the laptop. Now we're doing pretty good now.
Yeah.
Cam's getting it down. You know, he's getting it faster done, the editing. It's starting to sync up, starting to look good. But still, a lot of the lighting was still bad.
It was horrible. The lighting here sucks. Well, not anymore, but sucked.
The lighting was bad.
Yeah.
The camera was bad.
Yes.
Yeah. It wasn't working. And I was just like, this is not working out. You know, we got to figure out something. So our Canon was good on the guest. So I try to match that one up.
And that was my previous camera that I used just for
fun.
Yeah, just for fun.
Skate videos, little music videos, stuff like that. So he's using that one. GoPro's beautiful, working fine. We go, and I just say, you know what? I'm going to find another Canon like we have. So I find one on OfferUp.
Yes, sir.
The guy's from Texas, right? They didn't ever use it. Still in the box. I buy it off this dude. I think it was like $162 or something like that, right? Buy that camera. We get it. Now we're rolling, right?
Yeah, it was good for a while, but the lighting was so bad. I was just like, dude, like.
So we kept saying the lighting.
Yeah,
now we're going from we need a computer, we need regular equipment.
We needed everything.
Yeah, we needed everything.
Everything was like we just started and we just automatically need to upgrade. It's like getting a new car and like they were like, oh,
no rims.
No rims. You gotta get new
no
rims.
Radio.
No tires. You gotta like put those on.
Right.
Like it was just to the point where I was just like, dude, like every week it was something new.
We needed stuff every week. And in the meantime, we're getting guests. And we're getting pretty good guests. I mean, first guest, you know, shout out Javier Vasquez, my jiu-jitsu instructor. He comes through. And then we have Chris Santos, you know, he
Heart and Souls.
Yeah, he owns Heart and Soul. So we're getting good guests. We're getting good feedback.
Yeah.
And I could tell, like, some people were like, oh, like the video kind of was a little rough. And then the audio was great, right? The audio sounds great all the time. But the video's a little rough, and I was like, oh, yeah, we're working on that. I'm like, oh. And then I remember my friend Eddie was like, yeah, man, you got to adjust the cameras. And I sent him a picture of our cameras. And he's like, oh.
I mean, you work with what you got, look, honestly, because we're not going to get like some 4K cameras. We're not on Joe Rogan podcast.
I mean, no. I mean, we maybe one day.
Yeah.
Right? We always say that. Maybe one day we'll have some super sharp cameras. And some of the videos we shoot, you know, is with a really good camera. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But so then we bite the bullet again, and we get some decent lighting in here, right? And then what happens in the video? Now it
looks crisp. It looks good. I remember the first video we had lighting with was my uncle, Arpena.
Yeah.
Attorney at law.
Yeah,
it was like. I remember that day, and he was like, "This is nice now." Like, because he's a big fan of the podcast, and he you know, always texts my dad, "Hey, that was a good episode." So like when he you know got in, he was like, yo, this is dope. Like, and we're like, you're the first guest. Like, and he's like,
Right.
hey, so it was dope. And Ash Cashview, our photographer, social media person, every episode, lighting sucks. Even with the Sony, like, she has a really nice Sony. It was just, she just kept on saying the lighting sucks. So
We were behind the bullet. I mean, we were trying to buy something every time. We bought the banner. We bought another banner. The studio here, the office space was already set up with all the art that you see.
Yeah.
So that was always a great backdrop. That was here. So everybody walks in, they go, wow, this is legit. But finally we start getting everything into place. We get another camera, we get everything going. Now we're rolling.
big time.
Another big part of the podcast is the street gospel track,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I don't know how many times people have asked, who the heck is, who did that track?
Who makes the beat?
Yeah, so who made that beat? Like, who made that track? Did you guys make that track? And I was like, no. It's actually an older track we use for some videos for the brand. We've always used the term street gospel, right? That's what we're about. The streets and spreading the gospel, right? The gospel of Jesus Christ, the gospel of graffiti, the gospel of coming up, but it's a street gospel, the overcoming, right? That's the whole purpose of the podcast. That's how we got the name. We used to do events called Street Gospel, out on the street with graffiti and music, people telling their testimonies of how they overcome, how the Lord's helped them change their lives from drug addiction, whatever it may be. So we always had street gospel. A lot of people go, oh, you just snatched that name. I had people on the gram like, oh, you guys are just going to snatch our name. I think they were like Street Gospel Radio or something like that. And I was like, I started tagging them all the way back to like 2013, when we were doing street gospel, we're using that term, right? I'm not the first one to use that term.
No.
Okay?
No.
I'm not the first one to use that term. But
You just made it better.
But in the context
No, yeah, for sure.
of what we're doing, it makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. This is what it is. What you explained it like, you explained it perfectly.
And so this guy hooks my friend Tony, shout out to Tony, Orphan Tony. He sets me up with a guy down in San Diego, Malachi Dominion. Okay, check him out on SoundCloud, Malachi Dominion. We'll put it on the bottom, the link to his SoundCloud. But Malachi sends me tracks, and we were doing videos and stuff. And early videos, if you look at our Street Gospel TV YouTube channel, there's some early videos with that we did with my cousin, and Cam would be helping us and stuff. And so we did some early videos, so we needed music. So Malachi Dominion sends us this stuff, and he has a track called Street Gospel.
Mm-hmm.
So when we came to do the podcast, it was just like, it just went together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just went together. So everybody asked, what the heck? What's up with that track? What's up with that track? And I always tell them the track's it's a banger.
It is a banger.
I mean,
the
hood messenger. So shout out to Malachi Dominion, man. He's on SoundCloud. I hit him up yesterday. He's gonna send me some more tracks. So I've sent this song to a few people that asked for this song. It was like, that song's dope. I need to hear that song.
It's a great song. It's super good.
So Malachi Dominion, shout out to him. So we get the intro track. We're rolling. We got everything we need. The learning curve. It was still tough.
Mm-hmm.
Scheduling people in. So
we're all adults. We all work. We all school or whatever. Just it's hard sometimes, especially like, just, oh, we got this guest coming. Oh, I got work.
Yeah,
we got this. Oh, I got a report to do.
So Cam is in school working. I kind of have to work around his schedule, and not only that is we have some other schedules we have to work around. So we have to work around those. But Cam has to be here. It's almost a must that Cam's here because he's the producer. He's the one that sets up the cameras. He's the one that makes sure everything's in line. Checks me if I'm forgetting something. Hey, do you remember this? Remember that? So everything has to be in line. So we're trying to book guests, and it's got to be either on this day or that day because, at this time or that time, because Cam is very limited on his time. So it's a struggle.
Mm-hmm. It is. It is, especially when like I don't know, just sometimes guests just have a completely different schedule, completely. Not even like I'm like after this day or like this day, after this certain time. And I'm like I can do that. It's always like no, let's do this right here. Like I'm just like,
yep,
I can't do that. It gets hard. It gets hard.
It gets really tough. So getting guests in is difficult. Scheduling guests in is very difficult. So another part of the Street Gospel podcast that we have is people that come to the studio. This is an in-home studio, so people that come here,
they don't expect to.
Yeah, they don't expect this setup, right? The setup. I mean, it's a legit setup. I mean, it is. This is what it's for. It's for the podcast. The thing is there's somebody that we got to introduce here, man.
Yes, sir.
I mean, she makes the pod, like the guests that come into the podcast. They look at everything that's set up, the way everything's set up, the hospitality of our home, of the studio is because of her.
Yep.
So,
facts.
You know what, Camel? I'm just gonna bring her in right now, man. And
bring them out.
I got some music for her, so we're gonna bump that. You know what I mean?
Hey.
I mean,
that's a good track.
I mean, that track's banging right there. So she is a teacher. She's a mother. She's a wife, a beautiful wife. My wife. She's the one that keeps the Street Gospel podcast going. She's the one that welcomes the guests. She's the one that makes sure everything's set up. Everything's clean. Everything's sweet. Everything's nice. If when I come home from work and I'm ready to record a podcast, she says everything's ready to go. That means it's vacuumed. That means everything's wiped down. That means everything looks fresh in the house. So I want to give it up to this beautiful woman. That's my wife, my love, teenage love since 92, the backbone of the Street Gospel podcast. Give it up for my wife, Melissa.
What's up? How you doing?
You made it to the podcast.
Yeah. Why do I feel like I should be doing like the Delicious Dish SNL skit right now?
Everybody knows the Delicious Dish SNL skit, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like I should be talking really soft right now to you.
Hi. What about you, Pete? I love that skit. So you're the one, I said it earlier, that kind of made this idea of doing the video.
Yes.
So in the early days, super trials, super tough. Now it is like a blessing in disguise because there's two things I always say. Some people are more just, they want to hear it. Maybe they're working, driving, whatever. And then some people need that visual. And then there's some people that are like both.
Yeah.
Right? So they want to hear it and then they go like, I got to see how this person looks.
Exactly. And I'm more visual. So that's the reason why I suggested you do video also. And then also too, it gives you, more, I guess, exposure,
It's true. I mean, you not only get just the audio plays, but you get the YouTube views. And like I said, there's some people that we've talked to that said, they watch the YouTube every time it comes out, and sometimes they catch themselves, we have a 2-hour-long podcast and they'll watch the whole thing in like one night. And I'm like, oh man, but what is your thinking when somebody comes to the in-home studio or comes to the Street Gospel podcast? I mean, what are you thinking that day?
Well, that day I make sure that I'm home because, the way I feel is that a home is, it's a reflection of the mom. It's a reflection of the woman of the home. And that's big for me. I think that if we have company, the podcast, I want to make sure that our house looks really good, because if a house is dirty, it's gonna come on me. I ain't trying to have that.
Okay, everybody. So when you think of a dirty house, we're thinking of like chonies and shoes everywhere and dirty dishes. When she's saying like a dirty house, she means one cup in the sink.
No.
Yes, she means the lines don't match up. That's what she's talking about when she's talking. The lines don't match up when you vacuum. That's what she's talking about. That means that something's not dusted. You know what I mean? Like something that they're not gonna see, because when they walk in, they walk straight to the back.
Yeah.
I mean to here.
Yeah, but they have to go through a front room. They have to go through a kitchen. If they have to use a restroom, I got to make sure all that's like.
So she
good.
makes sure that everything is super clean. I mean, this has happened multiple times. Camo will tell you. People come here, and Ash will tell you too. People come here because she'll come out sometimes. Sometimes she's doing something or she's out and about when we're doing the podcast. But there's times that people come over. And she loves when she hears this, and they'll say, "Does anybody live here?"
I love that.
She loves that.
Makes me. It's like so satisfying to me because I'm like, man, I spent all day cleaning. I know. One thing too is that I have to make sure that this house smells good.
Yes, it always smells good.
Like one thing, when you go into a house and it smells bad, no.
Right.
Like I make sure that this house smells good, and it's just. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I mean, I get it. It's part of my OCD or whatever, but I want to represent. Like, I want to represent you and make sure that,
I appreciate that.
when they come in, that they're like, dang, this house is pretty clean,
Yeah. I mean, you represent us well. I mean, you really do. I mean, I was laughing because I was thinking today about Major.
Yeah.
Major Williams is running for governor of California. And, so he like stops and he looked around. He goes, "Man, this is a great setup." And he looked in the family room over there, and he's like. Then when he left, he's like, "Does anybody live here?" Like he couldn't believe it. Like, "Does anybody live here?" And of course, Melissa got a big kick out of that. She's like, "Oh yeah, thank you."
Happy.
So I was like, "No, not really. That's like a museum, in the front room over there. So nobody goes in there." But we have a modest home. But she makes it the best home, and I have to say the hospitality and everything you do for the podcast. Now, it's not only just the setup of that. She is the encourager, because doing this podcast is not always easy, right?
No. It's pretty interesting.
Can you give me like a situation when like a guest what is my reaction when a guest cancels?
Oh man. Okay, so like, it does take a lot. We have to make sure, Cam is off of work. We have to make sure Ash is going to be here to take the picture. I got to make sure that the house is clean, so everything is like all scheduled out. Like, when you tell me, hey, a guest is going to come Thursday. So we all have to make sure everything's set up. So, it even goes as far as like, we don't even eat dinner until after, you know what I mean? So when a guest doesn't, when the guest leaves, but when a guest like cancels or doesn't show up, oh my God, it's like, man, all that work, like.
Because it's a lot. It's a lot of scheduling. It's a lot of planning, research, setting everything up, making sure we're all here. There's been times when guests have been like an hour and a half, 2 hours late.
Yes.
So by the
and
time
we're starving.
Yeah, by the time they leave, it's late, and it's like we haven't ate dinner, and we're trying to figure it out. But you're the backbone behind all this. You're the one that sees me stressing out. You're the one that encourages Cam when he's stressing out about me getting on him to finish, editing. And you're the backbone that, even with Cash, making sure that she gives me the pictures and encourage her. I mean, you're like the best person for that job.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, the podcast would not get done without you.
Thanks.
I mean,
I always knew you could do it. You're always good at everything you do. And I'm not just saying that because you're my husband. You like legit are good at everything you do. And you're a great speaker, from, ministering to, just one-on-one, your podcast, when you were in a band, like you've always been a good speaker. And I feel like, you've always had that that thing in you where you wanted to get people's stories out. And you always thought it was important, So I believe in you. I believe in you, and I think you're dope.
Hey, thank you, love. Man, we're gonna have to cancel out the rest of this podcast, and we'll be right back. No, I'm just kidding.
Like I'm so good to be like, in the background, like even like I always say, being like especially right now, I am so nervous. It's like knowing these cameras are on me and like people are hearing my voice, like I'm like really nervous, but I know it's important to share, what goes on in the background. So, yeah.
I think, and you've recommended great guests for me. When I think of a guest and I see, man, I want to get this person. You always say, yeah, I think that'll be good. Or you ask me the questions like, why do you think they'll be good for the podcast?
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, well, I just think they're going to be good. Well, no, but why? And I was like, well, I think this is, and then you go, okay, well, that's good. Like you explain it to me. Well, I think this guy would be great because he's a great artist, or this guy's good because he's going to talk about this. I know I watch this guy, or, even, all the people we've had, you've always had like great feedback on them. I mean, there's been some you were like, okay, it was pretty good, but you always been like, it wasn't for me, but I know it's for somebody out there.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's a good take. 'Cause that's what I think. I know every podcast is not going to be for everybody.
Yeah.
But I know that certain podcasts are going to be for somebody.
Yeah, and everyone have got like, they've all been great. I mean, I listen to every single one. So, not only like I'm a part of it, but I also listen to it. I mean, well, I look at it on YouTube. But I mean, so many of them I've cried. I've, been like, wow, that's awesome, So I'm a listener too.
I know you are. I appreciate you always supporting me, love.
Thanks.
And, you're a part of the podcast. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, this is a team. I think most people if they cancel or they can't make it, I think they think it's easy thing. I think they think it's like, oh, big deal. Not a big deal, but it is a big thing for us.
Yes.
And you can't get mad at them. Sometimes they have obligations. Sometimes they have things. It's just circumstance. But it for us, it's just like, oh man, it's not. I've had somebody like say, like, what's the big deal? The big deal is it takes a lot.
It does. It does take a lot. But I mean, the cool thing is that it's the four of us. It's a family thing. We all like come in together and do it. I mean, sometimes one of us is not feeling it. Sometimes one of us is in a bad mood. Sometimes we're arguing, whatever the case is. Like, but it's good though. It's really good.
I think when we're not feeling it, one of us, or we're just like, man, I'm just tired because we all work, right? And we do the podcast. And then I think by the time the podcast is over, or when we get ready to put it out, I think it's all worth it.
It is.
I mean, you hear the feedback, you get a DM, you get a text message. We talked to somebody the other day that called us, on speakerphone, and it's a mother, and she's just saying, this touched her life. A podcast touched her life, and she's telling us that, she's sending it to her kids, and and God's going to touch her kids, and I mean, it makes me feel great.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. When we hear like the feedback, it's like it makes it all worth it. It's like, oh man, that day it was rough, man. And then when you're done and you and Cam come out and I asked Cam how was it? He's like, oh man, it was good. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait to hear it. And then when I hear it, I'm like, oh dang, like so it's always worth it, always.
I like when I send you like the early, not the early version because we don't edit nothing, but when I send you like before anybody else, I send you like the preview of it, and then you listen to it and you're like, dang, it's so good. Because for everybody out there, this is a weird thing about me. We do a podcast, we upload it, and it's sitting in the computer. It's not uploaded to YouTube, but we put it on the computer and the drive, and then I'm worried about it.
Always
worried about it. And I'm not lying. I am not lying. I wake up at 3 a.m. and I'm worried, was that podcast good? And what I usually do is, if I'm super worried about it, I don't listen to it till it's released. If I'm worried about it and it's bothering me a little bit, I end up downloading it to my phone and I listen to it before anybody else. And I drive, for work far sometimes, and I got a lot of time, and I'll listen to it, and then I feel like, oh, it's good, and it's a weird feeling. I don't know why I always do that. It's like 3:00 in the morning. I wake up every single time, and I start worrying about the podcast.
Every time. And the weird part about it is the ones that you are worried about the most are the ones that are like so awesome. Yes. Like, it's like, why do you worry? Like, I always think like, why do you worry? Like, it's going to be good. Like, I always think about that.
It's the weirdest thing, but I mean, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
And I love you. And the podcast would not be the podcast without you. Yes, I'm the guy in front of the mic and the camera, but honestly, I can do it without you.
Oh, thanks, love. I mean, and this is hard for me being on here in front of these cameras, but I'm doing it for you. I'm so nervous right now, but I'm doing it for you. I love you. And let me just say one thing.
Say one thing.
Since everyone knows about my house and like I need it clean and all that, do not pop up. Don't pop up at this house thinking you're just going to walk in. You got to give me at least 2 hours.
You had to throw that in there, right?
I had to throw it in there because and everyone that knows me very well knows, do not pop up.
You know who you are. You know who you are out there. We're not going to put you on blast, but you know who you are. Give her how much she needs?
At least 2 hours.
She needs at least 2 hours before you pop up.
Yep.
That's not really popping up, though. That's like a scheduled date.
No, that's like, hey, I'm going to be out that way. You know what? I'm thinking about going over there. Let me give her a couple of hours just to, like, make sure her house is good. Like, when people show up, I freak. Like, and everyone says, well, what are you worried about? Your house is clean. No, give me 2 hours. I need to be prepared. So I just wanted to throw that out there for everyone.
All right. Well, thank you, love.
I love you.
I love you, too.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for being on the show.
You're welcome.
This will probably be the last time you see her. Unless the next celebration is episode 100.
Oh,
how about that?
Okay, good.
So that's a long way
God.
out. Okay.
Thank God.
So
love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Yo. So Camo, who else we got out there? Who else we got out there? Okay.
Gosh.
Oh yeah. Okay. So check it out, everybody. So on the podcast, we have somebody that always takes our pictures, right? So the good pictures, you know what I mean? She said that she wanted to run my social media and she wanted to take the pictures. So, I mean, I'm a blessed guy. Look it, man. I have talented kids. My son does video. My daughter does pictures. So what I'm like, yo, you all live here. You're gonna have to do some work here. And that's just it. So I want to bring her on to the show right now. She is a young, beautiful woman. I'm not just saying that because she's my daughter. She, taught for a little bit, but she works at the school in another realm. And then she's been taking pictures since she was probably like 15 years old. I'm not going to tell you how old she is right now, but she's a woman now. But she's been taking pictures. So she knows the vibe. She knows how it needs to look. And so she goes, Dad, I want to run social media. I'll take the pictures. I'll tell you what to post and what looks dope. So I said, cool. So I want to welcome to the Street Gospel Podcast. You might have seen some of her pictures out there because she's dope. You need to hire her to take some of your pictures out there. I want to give it up to Young Cash View.
What up? What up?
What's up, Cash?
Before we start, check out the hoodie. Street Gospel Baby 101. Nobody got this.
I mean, classic street gospel. You know, that's from back in the day when we used to do the event every year over there in Southeast LA, Huntington Park.
Yes, sir.
So Cash, your role in the Street Gospel Podcast. Why don't you tell everybody what your role is in the Street Gospel Podcast?
I know everyone's been waiting for me, so.
Oh, everybody's been waiting for you.
Save the best
really?
for last.
Okay.
But basically, I get home from work and you guys are usually doing the podcast, and I have to sneak in the house not to make any noise. And I'm super tired, just work 8-hour shift, and I have to rush home and go get my camera. And then once the podcast or the episode's over for the podcast, then I have to come and take some shots of the people. And it's Cashview, baby. And sometimes it's rough. For example, one time I couldn't make it, and it was
okay, hold on.
Okay.
Okay, so one time she couldn't make it. And it's funny because tomorrow there's a podcast we're doing, you can't be here. So that means that OG Camo has to take the picture. So we had a guy on.
It's not that good, y'all.
A friend of ours, Diga Hernandez. Big following, right? I mean, big following on YouTube, big following on social media, big following even on TV, right? Big following on his own podcast. And so Ash comes in and she says, I'm going to set you up, Cam. Now, you got a nice camera, right?
Yep,
Sony. I mean, you can't go wrong with that, right? If somebody dials it in for you, you're straight.
Yep.
So she dials it in for Cam. I'm like, okay, Camo. Dials it in for Camo. Diga gets up. We need some shots, right? We're gonna take the shots. All I remember is young Camo saying, "These settings are wrong." Right?
Coming from a videographer, guys, that means I could take decent videos, cool little videos, no crazy editing, but videography and photography, two different things.
Two different things, right?
So if I come in here and I set up the settings
right
in my own camera with the lighting that I know is best,
right,
and then
because I don't think we had the good lighting, right? Did we have it yet? We did.
Yep.
Oh, that even makes it worse.
Even makes it worse. Yep. So some fool decides, let me go ahead and change the settings that Cashview put on for me. It would make my life so much easier.
Why?
Changes the settings on one of the most popular Street Gospel episodes.
Yes.
Diga.
Yes.
And changes the settings. So don't know this yet. I come home. I'm like, yo, Cam, let me see the pictures you take of Diga. He shows me the pictures, and I'm like, bro, horrible. If y'all have noticed, go look on YouTube. Look at all the episode pictures, the preview pictures.
The gram.
Or the gram.
Yeah.
Everyone is perfect. It had a different vibe in the beginning because we didn't have lighting.
Yeah.
Then we got lighting. Then it turned into a cool vibe. It was warm, and then it turned cool.
Yes.
And then Cam hits me with some dark emo Twilight-ish. So go look at the picture because it's weird.
It's totally Twilight, dude.
Yo.
It's totally Twilight.
It's so weird. Man. So I'm sorry for that, Diga. My bro did you dirty on that one.
He did. It was it wasn't that good.
It was horrible, y'all.
So look, I run every picture by Ash. And so I think I even posted one today, and she's like, that one doesn't look good. Can you take it down? And I'll retake some pictures today. It was my picture or whatever, and I was messing with it, and I put it up. And then she goes, can you take that down today? I'll take some new ones. So why is that? Why is it important to have a certain look?
So I think on Instagram, it's important because you want your page to have a certain aesthetic. So if you go to my Cashview page, there's a certain vibe going on. It looks pleasing to like the eye. Even if you aren't a photographer and you go on your page, you want people who don't have a photographer eye to look at your Instagram and be like, dang, this looks nice.
Right.
So everyone has like a different look. And then Street Gospel, we had like a certain look in the beginning, but then we got the lighting. I think the look got way better.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you just be posting pictures, and I'm like,
okay, on the story I could post them, right?
Yeah. On the story you can post them.
Okay,
some of the pictures I'm like, it kills the vibe, but overall it's a good look.
Yeah.
I think it'll get better too. So
right.
Thankfully you got me.
I mean, I am thankful I got you. Like I said, I got you. I got your mother. She's like the executive producer, right, of the whole podcast. I got you as our visual social media. I got Cam as our producer, editor, videographer, whatever else you want to call him, right? So, I mean, I do need all three of you guys, the bottom line. If I don't have you three, I don't know really what I'm going to do.
True.
You
True.
know,
Yeah, shout out to everybody. Shout out to Melissa.
Yeah, shout out to Melissa, your mom.
Shout out to Cameron. OG Camo.
OG Camo.
Camnesia.
Who was your favorite guest on the show? Who was like most interesting that you shot, that you took a picture of?
I think dang, that's a hard one. I might have two.
Oh, who's that?
So one's Diga.
Okay.
Just love it. I'm super into.
Okay, so podcast, you like that podcast? That's your favorite.
That's my favorite podcast. Oh, who's the favorite person I shot?
That you shot from the podcast.
Oh, okay. I think for sure Major.
Major, yeah.
I thought that was dope because
good look, tall dude.
Yeah, good look, but also to just who he is, and
Yeah.
he's running for governor. And I think for just a look, I like anybody with the tattoos.
Really?
So Carlos,
Chill. Yeah, Chill had
Set
it down,
free.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
Chill had it down, right?
it was sick.
So-
And yeah, so I was about to slip and say the last episode. I was
No,
like, oh
you can't
shoot,
say, you
I know.
can't say him yet.
But yeah, I think anyone with tattoos, that's my vibe. So I dig it.
Yeah, I mean, it just looks good on
Yeah.
film, right? Billy the Kid.
Yeah, Billy the Kid.
The neck, the back of the head.
Jesus, the Cholo Jesus.
Yeah.
On his rib. It's
So-
dope.
So all that was dope.
Yeah.
I mean, those are all great shots. Before you go, any advice to young photographers out there? I mean, you started when you were 15. I mean, you took
15.
pictures your whole life,
Yeah.
but you got serious about it when you were about 15 years old. I bought you a decent camera, right? And any advice for photographers out there?
I
Young-
say young photographers, shoot as much as you can. I'm talking about like thousands of pictures a day.
Okay, with that said, we have this old time computer
Yep.
right here. It's probably like 10 years old. How many of your pictures on here? Just yours.
Honestly, maybe 100,000.
Is a ton, right?
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
It's
And
crazy.
So take as many pictures as possible.
Take as many pictures as possible because practice makes perfect. Even if you take 1,000 of the same thing and you're like, dang, these suck, it's getting you where you need to be.
Nice.
So just take as many pictures because then it'll come so natural, and then it comes to the point where you have to only take one and you got the money shot or cash view.
Ooh.
That's right.
All right. Well, thanks, Cash.
Thank you.
Cash View, check her out on the gram. Hire her for your event or whatever you got going on. You want to take some pictures of yourself, your family, your kids, some cool shots of your car, whatever, you're shooting, for the album cover. She's the one. She has the eye. There's a difference, right? Like,
Yeah,
there's
so-
a difference between a good picture and a good eye.
That's the thing. So as a photographer, if anyone could have the most expensive camera, the most expensive equipment, and have all of it. But if you don't have the eye, your pictures are gonna be crap.
Yeah.
That is just true. I started off with a little Nikon camera, then went to Canon, and now I'm on the big guy,
Yeah.
Sony. But yeah, so if you have a camera, it doesn't matter what kind it is. If you have the eye, your pictures are gonna be dope.
Right. I agree with you. There's been plenty of times where I think I take a dope picture, and then you come and you take a picture pretty much of the same thing, but the angle and the way you capture it is just like, I'm just like, yeah, it's better. And mine's is clear,
Yeah.
has great color, but it's something about what you do and what you see that normal people don't see. And I think that's what makes a good photographer, right?
Yeah.
Dope. All right, Cash.
Yep.
Well, thanks for coming through.
Thanks for having me.
I mean-
best episode right here.
Oh,
'Cause
really?
I'm on it. I'm just kidding.
All right, yeah, it is the best episode. Every episode is the best episode to me.
True.
Where's OG Camo at, man? You gonna come through, OG Camo back? Come on down. Peace, Cash.
Peace.
Love you, kid. Thank you.
Love ya. Check me out at Cashview.
OG Camo's back. So, Camo, coming back to the spot right here. I mean, what was your favorite episode? I mean, obviously you like a lot of them, but what was your favorite episode?
I don't know. Well, okay, I do know. But it's not in a way where I'm like, oh my God, no, it is a great testimony, don't get me wrong. But it's the one I reacted to the most.
I know which one. Okay, everybody. So OG Camo, when we're taping, he's sitting over there behind one of the cameras, and he's keeping an eye on everything. But most of the time, we're talking. We're doing the podcast. He's listening, but he's sitting there for a couple hours. So he might be on his phone, scrolling. So we had one podcast where he's never had a reaction like this before, right? He's kind of heard a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But on this one, we won't say who it was, but there was a particular one with Rich Rodriguez. I mean, it was pretty shocking, the story. So I see Cam in the corner over there, and he's, scrolling, and he's like, and Rich is telling this story, and I see Cam's eyes go like 2 or 3 times. And I'm like, and then he's just like, and then all of a sudden he's like, and so I'm like tripping out at him because he's just, it's crazy.
It was, okay, I don't know, because, Carlos freaking demon possessed and freaking Diga healing people from, cancer, right? And I'm just like, I've heard that, did that, but, Richard's story, I was just like, what the heck is going, I was just like, what the heck? I was just like, all right, I was like,
because even Bill Hall's was crazy too.
Yeah, but I've heard Bill Hall's story too. That's a great testimony too. Check that episode out. But I don't know, something about it was just raw. It was just I was just like, what the heck? This is crazy. Bill Hall sounded like a movie. Carlos was a really powerful testimony. Diga, that that's been him for forever, right? So you were used to those people, but we never heard,
right?
The story. So I was just whoa,
it was wild. It was wild.
Yeah.
I think we've had a lot of guests. I can't pick one. They're all great in their own separate way. Mm-hmm. I think the one that got me, and I think that a lot of people really were like, what the heck? How did you get there? I think it was Major, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, we were kind of like, when he came, it was kind of like, yo.
I had people from middle school kidding me up. Yo, you got Major on the podcast?
Yeah.
I was like, I haven't talked to you in 8 years. How do you know about the podcast?
Right.
I still follow them from I guess from middle school. But it's so funny because it was this one girl was like, oh, I love Major. And I was just like, yeah, he came by. He was a really nice person. I'm voting for him. And I was just like, yeah, well, check out the podcast. He, talks about all this stuff.
Major was trying to get on the Joe Rogan podcast for a while.
Yeah.
Right? And I was bugging him for a minute. He said he'd come on. He actually booked a date, and then he had to cancel. Mm-hmm. So a couple months later, he starts blowing up, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't think he's going to come on anymore. He says he's coming on. I call his people. They tell him what days. I'm waiting for them to get back to me. I'm bugging him. Finally, he calls me, and he's like, I want to come on. Okay. So I said, all right. So he gives me a date. Oh, no, I give him a date. Right? Yeah. I was like, I forgot what it was. The 14th. And he goes, oh, I can't do it the 14th. I'll be on the Adam Carolla show. Let's do it the 21st. And I'm like, yo. So I was just thinking man. So he came. Cool dude. Really down to earth. That was a big one. Because a lot of, like you said, a lot of people were like, is that Major?
Yeah.
How did you get him?
Yeah.
The funny thing is, he wanted to be on Joe Rogan. Right? That's what I was saying. He trying to get on Joe Rogan. Because Joe Rogan mentioned him, and then Ruslan, which is also a friend of mine, has a huge podcast and huge YouTube following. Ruslan got him, right after us,
yes,
right,
yes.
So Ruslan goes on his story and is like, "Yo, I just beat everybody and Joe Rogan and got Major on my podcast, the first one." And after I'm like, Ruslan, I text him. I go, I beat you and Joe Rogan. I got Major on the podcast, and he texts me back.
Friendly
he's like,
competition.
Yeah. Well, he's big.
Yeah,
but
heck yeah.
But it was kind of little one for the small guy, right?
Yeah.
With no
David moment.
Yeah,
big David moment against Goliath.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
we don't have the HD cameras. I mean, we're just rolling with the little
camcorders.
You know what I mean? A couple lights up here. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But Ruslan's rolling with some dope equipment and stuff. Shout out to Ruslan.
Yep.
But I text him back and I say, "Hey, Ruslan, I beat you and Joe Rogan to get Major here first." And he goes, "Dude, I just seen that right now." And he was like, How did you get him? I said, I just called. You know, I just talked to him. I just logged him, hit him up. How long did you have him? No. He goes, well, did he go to your spot? And I was like, yeah, he came to the spot. He goes, how long did you have him for? I go, an hour and a half. He goes, man, I only had him for 20 minutes. And so that, I mean, that was a little bit of a good thing for us.
Yeah.
But we've had, you know, Jason Manley, Steven Martinez, Javier Vasquez, MMA fighter, UFC veteran. Jason Manley trains all these UFC guys. Steven Martinez has competed in jiu-jitsu against some of the best in the whole world.
Facts.
I mean, huge. I mean, I know everybody's not into jiu-jitsu, but they got great stories.
Yeah, these are big people in their community,
Right.
like jiu-jitsu community, you know, church community. Like these are you know, big time people. And I'm always glad that you always get people, and you're interested in so many things that you can get all these big people and get all people from walks of life to listen to just one thing.
Right. That was kind of my idea.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the pattern of Joe Rogan, right? I mean, he gets
Everybody.
a bunch of different kinds of people, scientists, doctors, comedians,
Miley Cyrus.
yeah, Miley Cyrus, actors, whoever, right? He has them on the show, chefs, whatever. Puts them on the show and says, here, check it out. You might not be interested in this astronaut or this, you know, a Coinbase guy or whatever it may be, right? But you listen and it's interesting,
Yeah.
right? You give it a chance. And that was kind of the pattern of this podcast. We kind of said we wanted to have all kinds of different people.
Yeah, and I think it's great because I'll go to like some different like you know, smaller podcasts like us, and it's just the same thing. And I'm just like, it's cool. Don't get me wrong. Like some of the podcasts are really cool, but like sometimes I'm just like, get someone else. Like like it's just like it gets to the point where I'm like, okay, like it's just the same episode.
Yeah, I think that's the hard part with this, right? Because you get some podcasts, they're like themed podcasts,
Yeah,
right? Which is fine. Some are like all about fighting. Some are all about music or whatever, social issues, whatever it may be, right? And then we kind of just were like, okay. And ours is I think the theme of ours is overcoming, coming up.
Yeah.
You know, winning the battle, whatever it may be, fighting, whatever. But I think it's all in different realms, though.
No, it is, and that's what I really like because not everyone's in a different realm. Everyone's just has their own mindset, has their own beliefs, has their own walks of life. You're not gonna listen to just one thing. Like you don't go to Disneyland to ride big old roller coasters, right? You go there to take, you know, some aesthetic pics, to go like eat, yeah,
food,
and like, obviously good rides.
Yeah.
But if you want to go on big rides, you're gonna go on Six Flags, Knott's Berry Farm,
right?
Like that is it's and that's what I like about it. It's just a wide range of just everything.
We do a little bit of everything, and that's the podcast. A couple other things I want to talk about before we go. So the weapons. So the weapons kind of started off as like
A kind of joke.
yeah, we had the bat,
Yeah.
and then I realized I had a bunch of other weapons around the house.
Yeah.
And then so I started pulling them out. I think I bought the hatchet, and then I think Mike Glory gave,
And the machete, the us versus them one.
oh yeah. Well, yeah, I bought that off Mike Glory.
Yeah.
He hooked me up with that one. So and then I found the bayonet. We had the bayonet somewhere in the house. So I started, you know, like telling guests, hey, pick one, you know, and we'll take a picture with it. And I think everybody digs
Everyone
right?
likes that pick. Everyone like it's cool because you get like people like you wouldn't expect to carry weapons,
Right.
and they'll carry like the Negan bat, just like
Right. I mean, Max was like, I need the bat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's either the bat or the hatchet. You know, the bayonet's been starting to get popular now.
yeah. Did Sophia get the?
Sylvia got the bayonet, right? I mean, there was some people I didn't want to give the weapons to, and I'm glad that they picked the right one.
Yeah.
Some of them did a crime with certain weapons over there, and then some
Or we just have like secret photos.
Yeah. There's some secret photos out there of people that
Just for
didn't
us.
have a weapon, but it's just for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, they say, hey, can you not post that? I think I didn't ask Major to take one with the weapon because politician, and then the next day he posted on his Instagram. He has this huge sword
Yeah.
from this
From a weird vendor.
some vendor he visited. And
Yeah.
I was like, dude, we could did it. I was
Yeah,
like, that would have been dope.
He would have picked the bat too. I know he would have.
Right.
But
I think with the podcast, I mean, to me, I think I explained it on the gram the other day is, to come into the podcast, to share your story, it takes a lot of guts, and I think that's kind of a warrior spirit to release some certain things and talk about certain things. And so kind of it's got its own little vibe now of that's what it stands for.
yeah, and I really like that too because, like I said, people pick different weapons. Like obviously, yeah, like they pick like, their weapon. That's their choice.
Right.
It's not like, oh, we have one weapon. Here we go, and I'll carry mine. No,
Yeah.
it's pick which one you like. Some people pick the Negan bat. Some people pick the machete. Some people pick the piñata bat.
Yeah.
It's just, their own thing.
Their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I want to tell you is some of the regrets and missed questions of people on the podcast.
Facts.
Right? I mean, some of the guests. We could talk about some of the guests, but I think sometimes I the next day or a day after or after listening to it, I always get like a question in my head. Or I missed that. Like, I told Max, like, for everything that he went through, Max242, shout out.
Yep.
Hey, Max, do you think that if you didn't go through all that stuff, you would have been the artist you are today?
Yeah.
And I missed that question.
Yeah, you did. It was funny because he went into my room like, I forgot a question. I was like, about what? And he said the question. I was like, you missed opportunity.
I missed it. I think with Rich, like, everything that he went through, Richard Rodriguez, his podcast is like, I asked him the other day this, but I said, were there some signs that you can tell early on, that your situation, I won't give it away,
Yeah.
but your situation was going that way.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, not really. And I wish I could have asked him that during the podcast.
Yeah. I feel like, even like myself too, I always want to like ask something. And like, I'm behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I'm probably will always be behind the scenes. But it's just funny how I'm like, man, like, that'd be cool if I can just ask them. Or like, oh, Dad, you should ask this. You mean like, oh, yeah, that's a good question. Like,
yeah.
it just depends.
Maybe we could do like a little question and then it'll like, we'll airdrop it on the screen. And I was like, oh, yeah. And I'll
Yeah,
look.
true.
Something like that.
Something like that.
The other regret was Major Williams starts saying how he used to be in the rap game, and I was a little respectful, right?
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
overly
yeah.
respectful, but I should have told him to kick a verse.
He would have dropped bars. He would have
I
dropped
know.
fire. He'd been like, all right.
I would have said, Major, can you drop a little 8 bars for us or something, a little 16 or
Yeah.
whatever, and let them bust, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I missed that question.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, he would have. That's a funny thing. Like, he would have too. He'd been like,
I think he would have.
All right.
And I missed
It
it.
would have been tight.
I missed it.
Next time.
I think the Diga one, I think I asked him every question I wanted to ask him.
Yeah.
And he was very good on answering those questions. I think that was good. I think with Sylvia being the first female, I think I was a little nervous on that one because you have to be a little respectful more of a woman, coming to the podcast and her situation. I think, with a guy that says, say if it was a guy saying he's on drugs for 13 years, man, dude, you were probably all jacked up, huh? You don't want to tell like a woman that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it was kind of funny too because you're like, I don't know what to say. And I was just like, just be normal, just like before the show.
I was a little nervous because I didn't know how to approach, and I mean that with all due respect, hey, I had to be respectful. I shouldn't say I couldn't be, but I didn't want to be like just another.
You didn't want to cross the line.
Yeah, I don't want to cross the line and be disrespectful to her.
Yeah.
And so I'm never trying to be like that TMZ gotcha. I'm gonna drop this bombshell on them on the podcast. Ooh, you have to answer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's not my approach. I'm not trying to do the gotcha or TMZ it on the person. I just want them to tell their story.
No, yeah, for sure. Also, too, I feel like you've always been like respectful with like just guests in general because sometimes they don't want to talk about certain things,
Right.
And like that's like one of the first questions you ask before we start the show is anything off the table? Blah, blah, blah. And they go, yeah, well, can we not talk about, or yeah, well, can we, and
It's rare though.
It is rare.
There's a few, but I always throw that question.
yeah,
to
you always
everybody.
throw that question.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's like, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
But you do throw that question.
Yeah.
So
I
it
mean,
is,
I
yeah.
always try to be like a little respectful. If there's anything you don't want to talk about, then I don't want to go there or whatever. But usually it's pretty open. Longest podcast.
Chill.
It's Chill Aguilar. Set free.
Great podcast. Don't get me wrong. One of the great episodes that we had.
Okay. The funny thing about this is, let's tell the story.
Okay, go.
Okay, you tell the story.
Okay. So it's a Saturday morning, and I have work like 11. Chill comes at like 9. Like, I was like, oh, I got enough time, record, get ready, bounce. So he's just talking.
Okay,
it's a great.
So for everybody out there to understand why I let Chill go, all right, and why it was so long. Chill never told that story.
Yes.
That was the first time Chill ever told that story. So to be on the podcast and lay his whole family history out, good, bad, ugly, I just let him go.
Yeah.
I mean, and he went for it,
Yeah, for sure.
and it was a great one, but it was long. I didn't realize how long it was.
Yeah, that was the funny part because I'm looking at you like
Right.
let's go. Like I was like in a rush, and then I was like, Mom was like, what's wrong? And I was just like, I gotta be at work, and he's still going. And then you were just like, I was trying to get your attention. You were just like, to his story, just like so focused. And I was like,
I'm listening to him.
no, I know. It was just funny. I was just like, dang. I was just like, he ain't gonna. Sorry, I just bounced. It was like,
So you bounce.
yeah,
Me and Chill an hour later wrap up the podcast, right? So I'm like, Cam, and I'm calling Cam.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, Ash comes out to take pictures of Chill, and she's like, Cam left to work an hour ago. And so I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, he had to leave. And I was like, oh, I didn't even realize how long it was. But definitely that was the longest one.
he texted me at work. It just ended. And I was just like, oh, shoot. Like, legit, like an hour
Yeah, it was-
after I left.
It was an hour after you
And
left.
before that, it was in like almost 2 hours.
It was almost 2 hours.
So overall, it was just 3 hours.
yeah.
I was just like, yo.
The crazy thing is that podcast got a lot of listens.
No, it did, yeah.
Got a good number of plays on YouTube too. I mean, Chill has a great following.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to get his dad on the show. I'm
Yes,
working
sir.
on that. That'd be dope. So, shout out to Phil Aguilar out there, but I'm going to get his dad on the show.
That'd be dope.
But guests are always, I mean, it's very tough because I think you really have to explain the concept of the podcast. This is a conversation.
Yeah.
It's not an interview. It's somewhere in between a conversation and an interview, but it's better when it's a conversation, right?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because earlier, before we were recording, Mom and Ash were, oh my God, what are you going to ask us? And me and like that were just like, it's just a conversation.
Right.
Especially like, it's just us right now. Like there's like no one in the house. There's like, Mom didn't have to clean, so it was chill. You just had to get ready, you know what I mean? Then, oh, what's he going to ask us? We got to prepare. And my dad was just like, it's just a conversation.
Yeah. Just be yourself.
Yep.
It's always better when the guests are just themselves. I think I always tell them for the first 5 minutes, it's going to feel weird. The lights are on, you see the cameras, the microphone, you got the headphones on. But usually after the first 5 or 10 minutes, they get warmed up and they almost forget like this is on.
Yeah.
And it's just a conversation with the person.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's always a good thing.
It is always a good thing because I used to do radio back in.
Yeah. So this guy did college radio for a while.
Yeah.
You hear that voice? So he helps me with everything on how to act, intro, outro. That was all right. Why were you so long on the intro?
Mm-hmm.
So things like that.
Yeah, because like some episodes I'm like, you could have like cut that intro to like 20 seconds. It was like 5 minutes. I was like
5 minutes.
over exaggerating, but I was just like, yo, but it's cool because I always, told him like, hey, it's just a conversation. Like at first he's like, I'm like, what did I do? And I was just like, just write everything you want to talk about.
Right.
Don't write specifically. Just write, I want to talk about this, that. Don't write this time and that time and
Right.
this time because that's a structure.
Yeah.
Like, do you think Big Boy really has a structure? Like, no.
No,
He he just talks.
And I learned that. I think I wrote down some points if we got to like a dead spot. But after like the third episode, I didn't write stuff down no more.
Yeah.
So when we come here, do I think about the guests? Of course I think about the guests. Do I think about, maybe their life or situation or maybe
Certain
certain questions I want to bring up? Sure. But when you write down the list is kind of like it makes you be like
a robot.
Yeah, like a robot. It doesn't flow and you seem rushed, right? And so I've learned like you just let it flow. And hopefully it'll come back to that question or you'll find a spot or segue into that question.
Yeah.
Sometimes, it is a little bit more structured. Sometimes it's just like, boom, boom. Chris Santos, boom, boom. Javi, boom, boom. Mike, everything was just like really flowy with a lot of these guys. Even Chill. I mean, I didn't talk a lot. He talked a lot, but it still flowed well.
Yeah.
You can get that little back and forth camaraderie. Damon. Great, even Richard, great. Sylvia was great too. So it just, everybody has their style, but there's some that it's just a little bit more flowy and it's not so question driven and it just glides right in.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's the thing. Well, episode 20, man.
Yes, sir. We made it.
I mean, I appreciate you.
Yeah, it's fun.
I mean,
like it.
The podcast wouldn't be the podcast without OG Camo. Check them out at Camnesia. Got some videos up there. And, he's a good dude.
Help a brother out.
Yeah, help a brother out. Support him a little bit. But I couldn't do the show without you, man.
Thanks. You're a good boss, quote unquote. But like it's true because sometimes I'm not in the mood and you're just like, come on, let's go. And I'm just like,
yeah,
all right. You just like, it's just a better mood. You're always.
And there's sometimes where I see there's some pressure on you and I just tell you, you know what? Just get it done when you can get it done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we try to do the podcast, put one out like what? Every
2 weeks.
Yeah. Like 10 to 14 days,
Yeah.
right? And it's not the easiest thing. It's not the easiest thing.
Nah.
You got to book guests and you got to make sure. There's been plenty of times where we're like, we're good. We got a guest this week. We got to get guests next week. And then all of a sudden, this guest
They all
can't make it,
cancel.
and next week's guest can't make it. So now we're behind the 8 ball again. And I think there was one time where we didn't do a podcast for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And it was tough. And so it's a little challenging on that part. I think the more we've done it, the more it's been a little bit easier to get guests here.
Yeah.
They see what the podcast is about now. They understand what it's about. They like it. They're able to go on there and look at different people and they go, hey, I want to be on that. So it's gotten easier.
It has. Another thing too, which is kind of funny. When you're like, oh, like, are you done? I'm like, I haven't even started.
Oh,
like,
yeah, I forgot about this.
I haven't even started editing. And like, he's like not like on my case, but like, he's like worried I'm not going to get it done. At first, yeah, and I get it. I didn't know what I was doing, right?
Right.
But like now I'll wait till the last day.
Yeah.
He wants it done by 8 a.m. tomorrow, and it's already 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Like,
and I'm sweating it.
yeah, and he's like, are we gonna get done? I was like, yeah, just
And it gets done every time. So now I trust you though.
yeah.
So if you say it's going to be done, the only thing is if it gets done late, like 10 o'clock, I got to stay up to upload it to YouTube and do the whole thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And we get issues with that sometimes. Sometimes it takes forever. If you know about uploading
YouTube,
2-hour videos to YouTube, sometimes it takes a minute.
new thing every week.
Yeah. We always run into a new issue every week. Lastly, I want to talk about this. It just came to my mind real quick. The episode with Carlos.
Yeah,
Servants, right?
that was crazy.
So that day was a struggle, right? So it was hard to get everything going on that day. We were trying to figure it all out. We were trying to do everything and make sure everything was ready to go. I didn't have the greatest day. I come home. I'm excited about the podcast. Cam comes, and
Bad day.
he had a bad day. So he walks in. He's a little grouchy, right? And then what happens?
The SD card's not working.
Right. So we're having problems with
Point
it.
it at Carlos. It doesn't matter. Like, yeah, you can point it.
So we're having
it's
problems with
bad.
the camera. Camera's not working. Cam's not doing. He's just not feeling it today. I can just tell. And I'm like, dude, like,
And he was on my case on this day too. This is like one of the few days, and I was just like, oh, I was a little frustrated, not gonna lie, and I was just like, okay, like
I think because Carlos was coming.
no, he was already here.
Oh, he was here and you weren't ready yet.
No, I had the cameras ready, but I put the SD card in, and it wasn't working.
Okay. So the camera's not working. He's here. You're mad. Back and forth. I think I told Carlos, like, oh, man, he was supposed to be ready. I don't know what's going on. So Carlos, like, don't worry about it. We get everything going finally.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Cam's mad sitting in the corner. Carlos starts doing the podcast, man. And he's talking about just how the devil, the satanic, demonic forces came against him when he was younger, and all this stuff trying to hold him back. And if you heard that podcast, excellent podcast of overcoming all that.
Our most viewed.
Yeah, it is. And we get to the end of the podcast, man, and I'm just like, this. That was one I knew. I didn't have to listen to it back. I knew that one was good, right? Camel turns off the cameras and he says, "Man, now I know why everything was tough today."
Yeah,
right.
It was crazy. Like, I don't know, just work was bad. I was grouchy. Dad was grouchy. Camera's not working. Like, legit. Like, the devil just try to hold like everything back from us to like just disencourage us, or like just like not have like the video shoot. God made a way. Definitely made a way.
I mean, at the end of that was really cool because like we really felt, and especially you felt like, man, this is all worth it. Like there's a bigger picture to the podcast than just us. Like it's a lot of work and all that stuff, and everybody sees the glory of the podcast is putting it out. So there's a lot of work behind it, but we realize that there's a bigger story. There's something bigger about this podcast that's reaching people. I ran into a guy at the gym and he's like, "Hey man, I heard your podcast. It's dope. I see people at church and they're like, I saw the podcast.
Yeah.
Man, it was good, man." And an old friend, I didn't know he listened to the podcast. He texted me one day. He goes, "Bro, I got choked up on the podcast." And I was like, yo, like, I didn't know he even listened.
Yeah.
So the stories, this project, everything, it's bigger than what we think. And it goes out to a lot more people than what we think. And I think that's kind of our motivation.
It is. It's called street gospel for a reason.
Right.
Gospel is not just, religious text. Nah, it's Jesus Christ, his gospel, his word. That's just it's always been about that. From 540 days to Savor Brand to street gospel events, now the podcast, like it's always just been about Jesus. So
yeah. I mean that's the story. I mean that's it for us. I mean we is there people that come to the podcast that don't know God? Yeah, but they're good people with great stories and they know what we represent and they still come.
They're open.
Right, they're open. That's the thing. They still come and their people listen to the podcast. And then they give a shout out, or they like it, or they're like, "Man, that's dope," And so that's the message that we have out there, man. And that's just what we're trying to spread. We appreciate everybody out there that listens, that spreads the news, that shares it with people, that watch it. I mean, it would not be what it is today if it wasn't for people.
Facts. Jesus brings people together.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it just does. I think there's an outlet for people.
Yeah.
I was worried, like, man, these stories are crazy. Are we
being too preachy?
Are we exploiting people's bad times or hurts or what all this stuff? And then, I think that people that come here and sit in the chair and tell their story, I think it's therapeutical to them to really say, hey, to be able to release that and tell that story. I think there's something about that. There's not places in the world where people can go and tell their story, right?
Facts.
I mean, that's why they go to psychologists and psychiatrists and counselors, because they want to share something with somebody. And here they come here and they're able to tell that story, and I think people that listen connect to a lot of those stories.
Yeah. Like I said, different walks of life. Jesus brings people from all different walks of life.
Yep.
Just for his sake, for his glory,
Yeah.
especially. So shout out to everyone that watches it. Shout out to all the homies. Shout out to all the random people that watch it.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the guests that watch their own episode.
The guests that come,
Guests that come. Just shout out
appreciate
to
everyone.
yeah. Shout out for all the love, all the feedback, especially in those beginning days.
Yeah.
But we appreciate you guys. Love you.
Thanks, man, for being my producer.
Yes, sir. Got you.
Good episode, man.
It's 28th. Has to be.
Episode 20 right there, man. I mean, it's definitely something that, I'm glad that we got to do, man.
Yeah, for sure. Same.
Well, you know what that means. That's the outro music.
Yes, sir.
So once again, quick shout out. No Rules Podcast. Ben Ready, Ill Will. Inspired me.
Yep.
Right? I want to give a shout out to my boy Alski for helping me get this equipment. I appreciate it, bro. Fredster got me those masks, made me order extra, and they sold out, and we flipped that to buy this equipment. I mean, he knew what was up, I want to give a shout out to my boy Artcore GFX. If you follow him on the gram, Artcore GFX, my boy Ralph made the banners for us, always represents for us. I mean, got to give a shout out for Ralph. Gave me some good words of encouragement when he first heard the podcast. Insight. I mean, he's a big podcast listener, so when he told me it's good, man, keep doing it, I felt good about that. So shout out to my boy Ralph, Artcore GFX. Give a shout out to Amalekite Dominion for the tracks, man. This is his track right here, the outro, the intro. I want to give a shout out to my producer Camo,
Yes, sir.
all day. My photographer Cashview, wifey, my executive producer Melissa, and just everybody out there, man, that listens. Definitely appreciate you.
We out.